genre.
Welcome to Beyond Geek By Night, where we go behind the scenes of the Geek By Night podcast. On today's show, we will be discussing the series finale, Heroes by Day. This is the second of multiple Beyond episodes where we will be discussing the series finale and series as a whole with the cast of Geek By Night. I am your host, Matt Bennett. Joining me today is the voice of Gretchen West, Chelsi Kern.
Hi.
The voice of Simon Holt, Andrew Ball.
Hello.
Voice of Jeff Gibson, Chris O'Connor.
Hey, that's me.
The voice of Lorelei Swift, Naomi Wong.
Hiya.
And the voice of Victor Conrad, Jay Malone.
Howdy.
Thank you all for being here with me today.
You're welcome.
Thank you for hosting.
So good.
I know you had to travel so far, Chelsi.
I mean, I did.
So let's begin by going way before the finale, way before the show even started, and talk about how some of us got involved with being in the Geek by Night cast in the first place. So what did it look like when you were first approached or cast in Geek by Night? Maybe Chris, we'll start with you.
Well, back in 2006, 7, like when I moved out to DC, left college and kind of was like looking for a job and didn't really have too much to do and was kind of, trying to make friends and do something with myself. I somehow stumbled into doing voice work for the Buffy Between the Lines fan cast podcast show. And through that, Scott kind of, as I recall, he told it, he kind of made him realize, oh, this is something I can do. And so he wrote his own thing and sent out a casting call to everybody who was on Buffy Between the Lines. And like, I have that email from like December 9th, 2007. So like we can kind of like date this the specific thing here. And this is what I got. I don't know. I don't think I can do a Scott impression. I've never tried, and so I'm not going to.
Do it.
Hi, guys. Just wanted to let you know that I've created an original ongoing podcast series called Geek by Night, and voice cast auditions are up right now. It's a very similar process to the BBTL audition process, so you should all be very familiar with it. Just go to URL and click on Geek by Night section listed on the left-hand menu. There you can find more info about the series as well as learn where to send your auditions. We're really hoping to turn this into something great. My writing staff and I have written 8 episodes so far of the eventual 14 season one, so we're moving right along. I hope to get auditions from many of you. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks to Tabs for letting me post this. Scott Corelli, creator, Geek by Night. And then like I responded to it and stuff worked out, and like I was trying to find like my emails like responding to that, and I couldn't. I guess I must have just posted it to the website or whatever. And then like the next sort of communications I have about that is on the Geek by Night cast Google group, which still exists. You can pull it up if you have the links to it. I have like the emails for it, and I'm like, wow, that stuff is there. And
it's one step above an AIM chat group.
I'm not gonna read anybody like my specific post on there, but it was about how I had just moved into my first apartment and how I didn't have internet yet, and I was just like, I'll join you guys for the table read as soon as I can, but I don't know.
Oh my god.
So how long was it after Scott reached out to you to when you were like actually recording the first episode?
Let's see here. My first message there was in just a couple of weeks. January 7th. So like a month later, we were setting up table reads and stuff. So we were recording within a month.
Very cool. Andrew, what about you? You've also been part of the show for a long time.
Yeah. Like Chris, I was part of Buffy Between the Lines and came in that original casting call. I believe I read for both Simon and Elliot, and ended up getting cast as Simon. And yeah, I was in college at the time. I think it would have been like a sophomore,
Nice.
and I just started doing Buffy Between the Lines because I was a Buffy fan, and I thought, oh, this whole voice acting thing is kind of cool. Maybe I'll do some more of that.
What part did you have on Buffy Between the Lines?
I think I was originally D'Hoffryn,
Good one.
Anya's demon boss.
Yeah.
And then when they did Angel, I was Lindsay.
Fun.
Chris, did you audition for Gibson or did you audition for any other roles?
I think I auditioned for whatever was available. I think I just sent in a bunch.
Yeah.
I don't think he I can't find any communications about it. I'm pretty sure I was just like, I'll read this one and this one and this one.
Yeah,
and this one.
yeah. If I recall, it was just it was like, hey, here's audition pieces for these various roles. Go ahead and do whichever ones you want to read for.
And I read for all the boy ones.
Naomi, what about you?
So I lived in New York at the time. I was just finishing up with drama school. I actually did look up the emails myself as well. I must have found it on a voice acting website or something when I was doing the rounds. I sent my first email on April the 1st, 2015. I don't know if that's indicative of the part I ended up with, but so I read for 2 different roles. Where is it? Okay. So I read for Lorelei, and also I read Veronica as well. I do actually have the original audio that I sent, if you're interested in forwarding that on at some point.
I was going to say, didn't you do multiple accents when you auditioned for Lorelei?
Yeah, I sent one in I try to remember if I did 2 or 3. I definitely sent my own voice, and I sent the Scottish one as for fun. I think I also did more poshed up as well. And then I got a response. What was it? He asked me to make a change. Could you do us a big favor, do another reading for Lorelei with the same accents you use in this one? We want more of an ADHD quality of the character. As if her mouth can barely keep up with her brain. Yeah, if you could do a take with this in mind this weekend, we'll be making final casting sessions earlier this week. Yeah, so I sent one back, again, all 3 accents. I was offered the role. I was not told which accent they wanted. So I had to clarify, and of course it was the most difficult one. But that's fine. I shouldn't have thrown it in there if I didn't want to do it. So that's on me. Yeah,
lesson to up and coming actors: don't do an accent in an audition unless you're willing to stick with it.
Right, you gotta commit.
And to be fair, I feel like I've made this joke before. I'm kind of like the opposite of James McAvoy. He's like a professional Englishman, but I've done, I think, Scottish accents for at least half of the work I've done.
Oh my gosh.
Take from that what you will.
Yeah.
Had you had VO experience prior to this?
No, we did I would say we took a class. We did 2 classes on voiceover just to give us a little demo reel to use in the future, I guess. But no, I was always interested in it because I really want to. Oh wait, actually, if I can count, I did some small incidental voices for an ex-boyfriend's video game project for university.
That counts. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's
that
cool.
counts.
Yeah, it was literally little grapes screaming, "Ah!"
That's perfect. Yeah, that's great.
Don't eat me!
Yeah.
Don't eat me! That was about it.
Yeah,
but
that works.
I think the work speaks for itself, guys. It speaks for itself.
What about you, Jay? What did it look like when you initially got involved?
If I'm remembering correctly, I'm pretty sure Scott and I had a mutual friend, and they reposted that Scott was looking for auditions. And I saw it on Facebook, and I remember I was talking to my wife about it, and I kind of got tired of being told, you should do this. I just said, screw it. Yeah, all right, fine, I'll audition, and I'll never hear back, and it's fine. And I did hear back. I think I had read for Jeff, and because that was just the audition script that was up, and Scott wrote me back and he said, "Hey, we have this other character in mind for you." And I remember reading the sides for Victor, and I was like, "This guy's such a square. It's not who I want to play." But I mean, here we are, almost 10 years later.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It was awesome. It was something where, I hadn't at the time. It was 9 years ago, so I was 36, and I hadn't acted since I was 18. So it was almost 2 decades of just wanting to get back into acting and just taking the plunge. And it's legit the most rewarding thing is being a part of this cast.
I love that.
And then Chelsi, we talked a little bit during the writers episode about how you initially got involved. So let's turn our focus to the finale, this massive episode that we have to end the series. Jay, I want to start with you because Victor has a very important episode here,
I guess.
And something
make it
that
sound like an NBC special.
A very special episode of Geek By Night. So Scott told us when I was interviewing him a few episodes ago that he sent you the script to the finale first before anybody else. Can you tell me about your feelings and thoughts when you first got the script to the finale?
I had to walk around the block a couple of times once I got through the whole thing. I kind of, without knowing it was coming, I kind of knew what was coming for Victor because it's kind of his character arc was to go out in the blaze of glory if he could. Mm-hmm. But that didn't really prep me. Just knowing something's going to happen and having it happen are two very different things. And he's become such just a integral part of who I am. And it was, I had to prep myself to say goodbye because I knew the table read was coming up because I couldn't be a blubbering mess during the table read. I had to get that out walking around the block here in town and having people look at me going, what is wrong with this guy? Why is he crying walking around? But yeah, so I got that ahead of time and I remember reading it and just going, that's perfect. That's how he would go out. It wouldn't be contrived. It wouldn't be sneaky. It would just be, this has to happen. And I'm the one who has to do it. So. Yeah.
Yeah. You have like a unique kind of goodbye to the character. Like we're all saying goodbye to our characters because it's the end, but like there's something so much more, yours is much more final and it's almost like you had to say goodbye twice. Like,
like if we were to do, there's what's happening with these characters in 20 years, it's like, and here's to Jay.
You don't have to.
I'm good. All is well.
There's closure.
How do you feel about the final product? That kind of translation from script to the final recording. What?
I haven't been brave enough to listen to it yet.
That's fair.
It is. I am my own worst critic on a lot of stuff. Like I don't watch a lot of the things I do. I don't listen to a lot of the things I do. But Geek by Night was something I didn't miss until this last episode. Because once I hear it, it's done. For now, it's still waiting for me. It's still, I can listen to this whenever I want to. I just don't want to yet. I'm not ready. It's like when the 10th Doctor is going in for his regeneration and I don't want to go. That's exactly where I'm at. Like I don't want to say goodbye to the character. So I suck in that regard that I haven't listened to it and heard how great everyone is, but it's just been, it's hard. He's an important part of my life. So.
I had the same resistance to recording my lines for this episode. Part of my job is making sure everybody turns their lines in, and I was by far the last person to turn in my these lines because I just I couldn't get myself to do it because I knew it would be the last time, and it's hard. It hits me.
It is.
In different waves, and it's harder. I knew it would be hard to do this, But it's so much harder than I thought.
Yeah. Like it was kind of an emotional journey when we go from kind of the zaniness and the madcap stuff that was happening with the game episodes when we're actually in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, now there's dwarves, now there's a dragon, now there's this. It is like, all right, fuck it, let's go. All right, let's have some fun. And then we get to the last three, and it's like, oh, this is all very heavy now. This is there's stakes. And it was you're talking about getting lines turned in. It was funny. I got a message from Scott probably I think 3 weeks ago, where it was like, "Hey, I need you to do some pickups," and I'm like, "Oh no!" He's like, "Your scream wasn't emotional enough." I'm like, "Okay, all right, here we go. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's open the wound one more time and pour salt in." But I guess I got pretty good at it.
So Andrew, I want to ask you about Simon. The finale was a very big episode for Simon. We got to see him at the absolute height of his powers, and we also got to see him without powers for the first time in 42 episodes. So how do you feel about where Simon's story ended up at the end of the series?
I love it because just looking at that character and at where he started in his arc interacting with other people, I feel like being the Q or being the guy in the chair is the perfect place for him.
Yeah.
I think he's, by the end, he is like last couple episodes had this whole thing in the alternate universe of, do I really want to keep doing this?
Mm-hmm.
But I think he ends up exactly where he needs to be. He's the gadget guy. He's the eyes in this. That makes perfect sense to me that's where he ended up.
And just like cheering Mindy on.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was interesting to see which characters chose to kind of lean into their powers and their superhero persona and continue with that, and which characters very explicitly did not. We had multiple characters, many of whom were in the previous episode of this cast recording, who opened a comic book shop together and decided that was the next step they wanted to take in their life. And I found it a refreshing turn for Simon's character to, embrace that role.
Stop trying to die.
Naomi, what about you? Lorelei ends the series continuing to bring up and enable and support superhero individuals. How do you feel about where Lorelei's story ends?
I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on with my voice today.
That's okay.
It's the emotions.
Yes, I'll go with that. I really like it because the thing that I found, I think possibly the most difficult to connect with Lorelei was her having this massive like corporate organization thing, and the fact that she's no longer doing that she's very specifically like helping to set up the schools and enter her Professor X era or whatever. Like it's like it feels so right. Like I feel like she would be one of the first people to just sort of impose movie nights on everyone who's going to the school, whether they want it or not.
Yes.
Just forming a debate club again. They don't know they're in the debate club, but they are. And I feel like it's she's the one with like the like Albert Elemental, where she's got the TikTok account and the principal's always trying to like be cool and stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like Lorelei's a bit like that, but I think she's probably more successful at actually being cool. Or at least I hope so.
I feel like Lorelei definitely has like one TikTok dance, but it's just the one.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's the one that she learned 3 years ago.
Yes.
And she spent time learning it, so by God, she'll do it.
Just got the floss down. They say old people can't do this.
Lorelei's not old. Come on.
Comparative to TikTok.
And also, Lorelei got some closure on a big part of her life with William Medina finally being captured and put behind bars, and somewhat closing the book on what happened with Henry. So, how did you feel being able to see Lorelei's story reach that closure?
I think it's always nice to end a storyline with a sense of justice being served. Like, I feel like sometimes in real life, justice is hard to get, and people don't often find closure, especially if it's something that's happened years and years ago. So, coming to terms with that and then to suddenly have actual closure, like, I really like that. I hope that more people can get that in their lives.
Yeah. So speaking of the school, Chelsi, Gretchen, who we've always known as a teacher, becomes a teacher at the Swift School. So tell us about Gretchen West and how you feel about how her story ends in the finale.
I really like where Gretchen ends up because, like, Gretchen kind of started as Elliot's girlfriend. Like, that was the character of Gretchen, was Elliot's partner. And I really like how along the way she has kind of separated herself from that role and kind of made her own spot in the group, rather than just a tag along. And I think it's really cool to see her, like, branch out in that way, and there's something very hard but also gratifying and mature to be able to look at a person that you have spent so much of your life with and be able to say, like, we had a great relationship and I don't think we should continue it. And it has been hard to go through that process with Gretchen and Elliot, but I think that it was always what it was meant to be. And yeah, I guess I really like and appreciate how Gretchen kind of just ends the series on her own as her own person.
We also got to see Gretchen really at the height of her powers after Max pulls his final reversal and convinces Billy to supercharge everyone's powers around him. How was it being able to play this overcharged, overpowered version of Gretchen, even if for a little bit?
It was actually really hard to record. There's a part where I'm, like, freezing and punching, and I was standing in my closet trying to, like, I don't know, I'm not a very violent person, and so, like, punch was just, like, I was like, I don't know how to do this. But it was a lot of fun, and it, yeah, I don't know, it's there's a new energy to it, and very different from, a few episodes earlier in the season, and it's, I don't know, I thought it was really cool to be able to have that moment of, like, really leaning into those powers, especially when, we saw what it was like when Gretchen had no idea what to do with her powers. So it's really cool to see that growth and, yeah, that confidence in herself.
Yeah. So, Chris, I want to talk about Jeff now, because the series kind of starts with Jeff and Elliot and ends with Jeff and Elliot, and obviously a lot of things happen to Gibson in between. So how do you feel about where Gibson ends up, especially considering his character arc throughout the series. He's definitely not the same person at the end of the series than he was at the beginning.
I think it's good for him. Good to sort of grow and change and sort of learn to recognize the humanity of the people around him and be able to sort of move past himself and be less afraid of the world around him not being what he thought it should be and or what he thought it was. I really like that he's able to sort of change and grow like that, but also sort of, but do that without going from like, well, I liked geeky things and running a comic book shop, but now I'm going to be a serious boy and become an accountant. Like he still stayed with the things that made him happy and the things that he enjoyed and gave him life and energy and he didn't lose that.
Yeah. So this is kind of a question for the whole group, but if Geek by Night were not over, and it is, there are no plans for spinoffs or sequels,
No.
but if it were not, and we picked up on our characters in, say, 10 years, and I suppose only most of you can answer this question, but I'm so sorry, Jay.
It is what it is.
Where do you see your character in 10 years after the end of the finale?
You know that sound the modem made when you logged into AOL? that's Victor. That's Victor.
Okay, yeah, like to continue with Jeff's like growth and change and staying with something he loves. I like to imagine that he's working on storytelling and he's doing okay. I don't expect that he's got a movie deal yet. I don't know that he's necessarily vacationing by a lake or really doing perfect. But I think in 10 years he's getting product out and happy with the work that he's doing with his partner. And 10 years, I think in 10 years time, he may not necessarily be married with kids yet, but he is at least in a nice relationship.
I like that.
Yeah, I feel. Oh, you go.
No. I was thinking, I don't know if any of you saw that, like, a few months ago, Adam Sandler randomly showed up to basketball courts in London and just played with people. I like to imagine that's the sort of thing that Lorelei's doing. Like, she just pops up to random events. You're like, whoa, yeah, let's go watch some friggin' curling. Is that Lorelei Swift competing?
Lorelei Swift's in BattleBots.
She's not losing. I don't understand. Like, that kind of thing. And I also like to think that she's like very outspoken. She's made like a big nuisance of herself, like especially since like befriending the underdogs and like finding out things that she hasn't had to like really consider before because she's come from such a place of privilege. And I like to think she's just like out there funding community projects and like cussing people out for not thinking about people less fortunate than themselves.
I can imagine Lorelei Swift doing the podcast circuit a lot. Like, she's just on the Joe Rogan Experience, just like, shut up! No! That is not true! Stop it! Aliens didn't build that!
Like, here's all the reasons you're incorrect.
Yeah, I could definitely see, like, Lorelei kind of passing the torch and just kind of handing things over to Gretchen with the school. Like, all right, well, I did the school thing, and now I'm gonna go learn how to curl. Yeah, because I definitely see Gretchen like still in, the education system, and I think there's there's so much excitement in watching your students grow, and I think that she would just kind of be living in that pride of like seeing how, all of these newbies have grown and expanded and gained their own confidence. And yeah, I think that would just be like, I don't know.
I think that 10 years on, Simon and Mindy are still together. I feel like with the school and with superheroes sort of out in the world now, I feel like being sort of the OG real life superhero team is going to carry like some political weight, some advocacy weight.
Mm-hmm.
And as things go on, I think it's probably going to sort of transition from like, on actual crime fighting on the street to, okay, well, these people with powers, they exist now, and someone's going to have to, not only just necessarily form them into superhero teams or whatever, but to advocate for them politically. And I feel like kind of along with the school being the public-facing thing of, hey, here's people with powers doing good, is going to, I feel like that's a place where they're going to step up. And I think also if this is like, a show and Simon's having like a character arc 10 years out, I think there's probably also some questions of whether or not he and Mindy are going to have kids. Because with all his stuff with his dad and, what that means for him as a clone. And I think if there's a story going on in his personal life at that point, it's probably that.
So you're telling me like he is Jean Grey in the first X-Men movie showing up to the congressional hearing?
Yeah, I think obviously he and Lorelei can tag team that, but yeah, I do think that's once this is all out in the open, that's going to become necessary, and yeah, I think that would be a role he could fall into. So
a little, I guess, kind of announcement. I did say this in the previous episode, but I'm not sure if everybody in the room knows this. We are going to be posting the video recordings of the table reads for the final 3 episodes on Patreon this week.
Cool.
That's awesome.
And
this week.
What's that?
This week.
And that also includes the original final scene of the finale before it was kind of reworked. So on the topic of table reads, specifically the table read for the finale, I'm interested to hear from the group how you were feeling or how it kind of felt in the room for everyone to get back together one last time, since due to the nature of the show and due to the nature of people being so geographically spread out, these table reads tended to be kind of the only time you were all in the room together. So what was that final table read like?
I feel like all of our table reads, there was always such a silliness to it. Like, we all just loved to kind of goof around together, and that's always been, I don't know, one of the most fun parts of it, for me at least.
Yeah.
Like hearing everybody do like different voices and stuff, and especially for this one, because this one we had so many supporting characters that I literally had to plan ahead who was going to read what.
That's definitely one of the fun parts of the table reads is just like when we come to the little sort of bit parts in the script, and I'm just like, no, I want to do it. No, not you. No, I want to do it. Let me do it. And then I put on a stupid voice and have fun with it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the nice things about like doing table reads together instead of necessarily like recording together, is that while if you're recording together, there is a certain like energy you can play off of. But if you're doing a table read together, you can just there's less like pressure, I guess. You can be a little looser, have a little more fun with it. It kind of lets you think, oh, I'm gonna maybe do something with this performance here that's a little bit weird, a little bit bigger, and see if Scott calls me on it.
Right.
And if not, maybe that'll go in my final recording. But
there have definitely been so many times where like we did something and Scott was like, "That's super funny. Don't do that in your recording."
Yep.
it was always a really surreal experience for me, because I mean, I live in the UK, so it's usually like the table reads would be at like 10 p.m. onwards on like a Sunday evening, and I'm like, I just did a full day of work. I have no idea what's going on right now, but we'll try our best. I'm like sat here now. You said that they're releasing the video. I'm like, what was I wearing? I feel like I pull my like soft toys down and like hug them a lot.
You do.
So y'all are gonna get real familiar with my like Charmanders.
Please.
I'm like, what was I wearing? Oh no. Oh well. It's
I never
all fun,
noticed.
guys.
So now that Geek by Night has this true ending, and it is, I've talked about this a lot, but it is pretty rare to be able to work on a creative project that actually does complete and have an ending, especially a project where people are donating their time and talents to it. But now that it has an ending, it is officially in this bingeable status, that there are 44 episodes and you can recommend it to anybody you want. So I wanted to ask the room, if you were trying to convince somebody to listen to Geek by Night, is there a moment or a scene or an episode that you feel really encompasses this show? Either that's like representative of the show, or maybe just like you think would convince somebody to listen to the show?
I mean, I'm such a I don't like spoiling things for people person that I would go with like the first like arc, because I don't want to let people know what's coming.
Yeah.
Like if I'm trying to get them to listen because I'm like, it's me, guys, you love me. Honestly, like
There is that.
I think my auditions sides were Lorelei's first like scene, and like she's talking about Charles the manatee and stuff, and like I think that's really fun, so like that's what I lead with.
Yeah, I think you have to, for something this big, you have to start at the beginning. You know, you can't jump in halfway through because you're not going to know what the hell's going on. And why does this character matter? Why are they important? You have to start from jump. It's too massive and too important to not start at the beginning, to not only just learn the characters, but also see their evolution throughout the story.
Right.
Because everybody grew, everybody changed.
Yeah, it feels more like one of those, you know, there's so many shows that we'll recommend and we'll be like, you just got to get through the first episode, and then it's great.
Like, you really don't have to watch the first season.
It feels a lot like that, where I'm like, the first episode where, you know, we were getting our shit together and figuring it out, and then it just hits the ground running. Like, it is great. And I can't imagine I don't know. You have to start at the beginning.
Is there an episode that you think is like quintessentially Geek by Night? Maybe it's not the one that you used to recommend to people, but one that you feel like that represents the show to me, or that feels like the show kind of distilled down, a standout episode.
I mean, I mentioned it earlier about the episode the episodes where we're in the game.
Yeah,
like that was great. There was so many just illusions and suggestions about the game for so long to get that payoff. It was just so fucking cool to see. Like, you know, in your mind's eye, you know, Theater of the Mind was so cool to experience, and just kind of, you know, I'm sure we all had a different picture of what our characters looked like at that time in these ridiculous situations. It was awesome. That was Geek by Night to me. That was the payoff, was that 3-parter. I think it was 3 parts, at least. I don't remember. Something like that. Multi-part.
Yeah. The scripts are set up in such a way that is different from how it is.
Yeah,
true.
So it's always so confusing to explain. Like, it's episode, I don't know. I kind of already answered this, but kind of the same way was, you know, everything to do with the game. The game feels very like especially the music behind it. That's always what I hear when I think about Geek by Night. is just that like like it's
I did enjoy every time I said the game with capitals.
Yeah.
Capital letters. That was a lot of fun. And then it's right there in that first episode when we play the game in the bar. I really enjoyed that scene. That's great.
Are there any moments or scenes or episodes that you are particularly proud of, whether you were a part of that or not?
I would say for me, Ghost Story was a massive standout for me. Getting to know more about Lorelei, because up till that point she seemed like really carefree and she's just like crazy. And then we found out like what things sort of drive her, and it humanized her in such a way. And yeah, I'm proud of how that one turned out. Definitely.
Ghost Story is so good.
I think anytime that Nick really got to sink his teeth into being Billy is so good, because he's such a bastard. But Nick he's like the sweetest person in the world. And just to see him just dive in and be just this evil, evil character was so much fun to watch and so much fun to listen to. He's so good. He's so good.
Yeah, listening, and him and Tofty both, like listening to Tofty being like, "I'll buy that for $1." Like his
never gets old.
His delivery is just perfect. I love it.
I feel like for me, like as an actor, I was very proud of the see, I don't know which episode number it was, but when Gretchen accidentally sends everyone somewhere and doesn't know where, and there's that moment of just like heavy breathing and like like sobbing, and I actually remember, like I very clearly remember recording that episode, and it was very emotionally tasking, but it was, I don't know, I felt very good about it, and it was the most, I feel like the most time spent getting in a headspace that I ever did, like in this character. And I don't know, it was a very emotional moment. And even just like, even though I didn't have Victor actually with me recording, I don't know, like in a weird way I could like feel Jay being a part of that scene with me, and that like also made me very emotional. And like that was just, I don't know, I hadn't gotten to do something like that, at least not with voiceover, and that felt really good.
And that also just distills what Victor is to the group too, that mentoring presence.
Yeah, that comfort and just like caring for everybody.
So before we get to my final question, just wanted to kind of open up the floor and see if anybody has any fond or special memories about the show, either working on it or anything to do with this production that's been going on for 10, 15 years for some people.
I think for me, outside of finding people that when I started this up, I didn't expect to have such an important part of my life that they do. Because like, Ray, Scott, Chelsi, Matt, these are all people that are, I love, and it's, I talk to regularly, and, just randomly, also like Chelsi and I do it all the time. We'll randomly send messages to each other. Just like, hey, love you. Just want you to know.
Yep. I love it.
Like I'm not a terribly open person outside of, or in the real world. So to find people that are that important, that I care about that much, was a huge part of, me growing as a human being. But the one that stands out the most to me, and I think I mentioned this on the last Beyond that I recorded, was our first table read. And I was so stupidly nervous and just convinced I was going to fuck everything up and I was going to be fired. And it was like, that was it. And the second I got to play off of a scene with Naomi, the first time that Victor and Lorelei were talking, I was just like, Jesus, this is fucking amazing. Like I still think about that and get goosebumps just from the ridiculous energy that happened from that table read. It was magical. It was incredible. And I can't thank anybody enough for giving that to me, because it was life-changing, completely life-changing.
Literally.
Like, I mean, I started this and my beard wasn't white. Like, I'm fucking old now. Like, it's and like I look at, you know, I had the Facebook memory pop up a couple of months ago where it was, I got the part, and I was like, God, that's over now. That's done.
Yeah.
And to look back at the 9 years is pretty crazy that we built something this cool.
9 years just feels crazy to say out loud.
Yeah, my kid was 6 when I started.
Oh my God.
My Victor was 6 when I started.
Oh my God.
He's taller than me. So
passage of time.
Yeah.
Like I know for me, I said earlier I sent my audition when I was living in New York, and since that time I moved from New York to old Yorkshire, then to Vancouver, then back to Yorkshire, and then down to London. But Geek by Night has been one of the things that stayed just completely constant in all of that. And like, it's because I got it right out of school as well. It feels like it's been my entire adult life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, but it feels like it. So surreal.
Yeah.
It definitely was for me. I mean, I was 19 when I joined this show, and now I'm almost 30, and that's wild to think about. And Geek by Night is just always, like, so many of my friends just, they know me, like, Geek by Night is a part of me. It's like, we are hand in hand, and I have always just been excited to work on it and excited to tell people about it. I have always just wanted everyone to know about the show because it has been my favorite thing that I've ever worked on. And I wish that it got more attention because I just think it's incredible and I wanted everyone to hear it.
Man, I've been on Geek by Night since before I met my wife. And when she met me, I don't remember exactly like when I told her that, like, oh, I do podcasts. It might have been the first date. I don't know. We're pretty drunk, but early on in our relationship, she like sought out podcasts that I was on and like listened to everything, which I guess it worked out for me. It was pretty cool. But she really enjoyed that. She would like listen to me at her workplace and just be like, oh yeah, I listened to this thing you did. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Oh, yeah, great. And apart from that that sort of formative experience, that early experience, it was really cool when after the sort of first run fell apart, and then they didn't really get the comic book kind of going. It was nice a few years later to just be like, you know what, let's do it again. Let's reboot this. Let's finish it. And that felt good, and it does feel, and now that it's over, it's a good feeling. It's nice to have it all done.
Yeah.
My fond memory about the show is so I started listening to the show back in 2016 to mostly because I was trying to impress this girl that I just started dating who happens to play Gretchen West on the show.
Ghost Story was the first episode we listened together.
Yes, Ghost Story had just come out,
yeah.
And I really enjoyed the show, and it was something that like I kind of just consumed because I enjoyed it so much. And then Friends and Enemies came out that summer. And I remember we listened to it the day it came out. We were driving out through the cornfields, like near Grable and all of that, just because we like to drive while I listened. And Friends and Enemies is such a huge episode because that's where you find out that the mysterious woman is Charlie. You find out that she's Charlie Swift. And you also find out who Billy is and that Billy's been wearing this mask the whole time. And it's just this, there's so much to that episode in terms of reveals and payoff for the dozen or so episodes that come before it. And not only was I like visibly shocked, I remember like my mouth literally like hanging open.
I have a photo somewhere of you like your mouth hanging open, your hand is like to your face. You're like, oh,
I especially when Billy got revealed, I could not believe it. I could not believe it. And that was such a pivotal shift for me in the show because that's when it moved from like this cool thing that my girlfriend is part of to like capital S something. Like it's I don't know, it didn't just feel so cool to be in proximity to a story that was that interesting and that satisfying, but I felt like I found this like hidden gem that people were yet to discover. And I still feel that about Geek by Night. Like I still feel like the 100 biggest Geek by Night fans have not listened to the show yet.
That's not true. I listen to it all the time.
And it was just I remember that so vividly, that exact moment of when Billy gets revealed and feeling like all these things fall into place. And, you know, it was 4 more years before I became involved with doing the after show and being an associate producer and all that kind of stuff. But that for me was the turning point. So I wanted to share that.
We have a lot of people who are part of the show in big and small ways who started as fans first. That actually...
Absolutely.
I mean, this episode, I cast a couple people who are just huge fans of the show, and they happened to fit some of the roles in the finale. And I was like, hey, you want to be in Geek by Night? And they lost it. They got so excited. And it was so exciting to be able to do that and give them that opportunity. Shout out to you, Becca. I know you're listening.
And KJ.
And KJ.
So to end up the show today, I wanted to go around the room and ask what each of you is going to miss most about working on Geek by Night. I'll start with you, Chelsi.
Oh, me? No, don't start with me. Start with someone else.
No, start with Chelsi.
I just talked a lot.
Oh, she did. That's true. It's fair. Good point. I guess I should keep talking. All right. Yeah, like what I'm gonna miss most is like what I was saying earlier. Those, and the last one was so long ago, but the table reads were so much fun. I miss that, and like we need to do more stuff like that. It was a lot of fun to like every once in a while. I think we did a couple of script reads like as dueling genre productions, just for shits and giggles, and I was like, that was very enjoyable. I liked doing
so
that.
Fun.
Just do it again. Just read some
I
stuff.
completely agree with that. I'm like more script reading.
It's a good
one
way
of my favorite
to
memories.
spend some time. We could just, on the Discord, we could load up the little video chat on the Discord, which we do not utilize to its fullest potential. And we could just hang out and be like, all right, everybody, who's Lady Macbeth? And it'll be me.
You could do it like a Twisted Tunes kind of thing where you do your worst impressions.
Everybody do it with their worst accent.
I think the thing I'm just going to miss the most is just being a part of something bigger than me. Because we made something really, really magical. That, you know, when I started, I auditioned on a lark. I didn't know if it was going to go anywhere, and to make what we made was it's an important show. You know, even if it doesn't take the world by storm, it's an important show, and I think we told a hell of a story. That train agrees.
Yeah, that's my living situation. Sorry, but it apparently wants me to go next. So,
Choo choo.
I think for me, it was always getting a new script
Mm-hmm.
and reading it for the first time. There's so many cases where I'm just reading through and just have to stop and shake my head like, yeah, all right, that's really funny. You got me.
Yeah, script
genuinely emotional when I see something for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
It's always this that little private moment of, oh yeah, I'm gonna get to read this. I'm gonna have to act this.
Yeah, script drop days were always the best. Like I would always end up live texting Scott like my reactions throughout, and I have a picture somewhere that I sent him when I first read Victor's monologue in the last episode where I'm just crying and I was like, it's a really good episode. It was great. And that was always just so fun. I loved like, I don't know, getting that excitement of that was when the show was new for us. So like when the episodes come out, everybody hears it like that's their first time. But like for us, it was the script, and reading through it and seeing what we were gonna do was so cool. And I also a small little thing that I love is there have been multiple times throughout most, if not all, of the episodes where a line that ends up being the one that ends up in the episode was actually like a goof, a blooper, or like something that was ad-libbed, or
like you in the holiday special.
Like me in the holiday special. It's so funny to hear, I don't know, little things like that, and hear how other people like Scott, Cass, Nick heard us and thought like, oh no, like that the most natural accidental thing that you did was the thing that we needed. And that was always a lot of fun to hear that.
I'll close this out. The thing I will miss the most is the wall that I had the privilege of being able to stand behind between fan and producer. I did not read a single script before an episode was fully produced. I was right on the periphery of this show and this story being made, and I got to listen to it the day that it came out, and everybody else got to listen to it. And I loved that because I got to be part of that energy. And, you know, go in the Discord and people are posting like spoilers without context and, you know, just all the interactions that come with this and this shared experience of being able to listen to the story at the same time as everybody else. It's the same reason why we, you know, go to the movie theater. It's that collective moment when we all get to be in the story at the same time. And I really love that I got to do that 44 times over the years. I had every opportunity in the world to read a script or to hear a rough cut or, you know, to do something early. And it meant a lot to not do that and to force myself, as hard as it often was, to wait along with everybody else.
And force myself to not tell you. Do you know how I knew about Godzilla coming into an episode for like a year and I couldn't tell you?
I spent 6 months trying to say that I thought that the last man was Joel Vickers.
Adamant.
Glad that didn't happen that way.
I am glad that didn't happen that way either. All right. Well, I want to say thank you again to all of my guests, Chelsi, Andrew, Chris, Jay, and Naomi, for joining me today. And thank you to all of you, the fans, the underdogs, for listening. If you'd like to see videos of table reads for the final 3 episodes of the series, they will be posted on Patreon this week, including the original final scene of the finale. Thank you for going beyond Geek by Night with us. Have a super day.